Welcome back to True Echo, where powerful voices rise and justice finds its way. Today's story will leave you speechless, questioning the world we live in, and perhaps seeing hope where it once seemed lost. A simple act of kindness spirals into chaos when a black man is wrongfully arrested in broad daylight. But what happens next stuns an entire city. Stay with us. The end-of-day rush gripped the city like clockwork. It was 5:37 p.m. when Marcus James turned onto Blake Avenue, his car crawling through the snarl of traffic. Golden streaks from the setting sun slipped between glass buildings, casting fractured light across the crowded sidewalk. Horns blared. People streamed from subway exits, clutching briefcases and iced coffees, earbuds glued in, lives disconnected. Marcus was 30, a soft-spoken IT technician at a mid-tier firm 3 blocks down. His navy slacks still held the creases from this morning's meeting, and his gray hoodie, half-zipped, bore the quiet wear of a long shift. All he wanted now was to get home, microwave leftover spaghetti, and FaceTime his 8-year-old son Milo before bedtime. But then he saw her. She stood by a lamppost, tiny and trembling, no more than 10. A white girl, tears streaking down her flushed cheeks, her chest rising in quiet hiccups that no one noticed. Commuters streamed around her like water past a stone. Some glanced, most didn't. If they did, they turned away quickly, uncomfortable, annoyed, indifferent. Marcus slowed his car and parked along the curb. Something tugged at him. Maybe it was the way she clutched her stuffed rabbit so tightly her knuckles went white. Maybe it was the fact that she reminded him of Milo's friend from school. But mostly it was the silence. The kind that screamed when no one else was listening. He got out slowly, deliberately. Phone in hand. Hands visible. Always visible. As he approached her, he knelt, about 3 feet away. "Hey," he said gently, voice low, steady. "Are you okay? You lost." The girl sniffled. "I lost my mom. We were at the coffee place. I thought I saw her cross the street, but it wasn't her." Marcus gave a soft nod. "Okay, don't worry. We'll figure this out." He turned to pull up the city's non-emergency police line. But the world had already begun shifting around him. He didn't hear the murmurs at first, just a woman's footsteps slowing as she passed. A man tightening his grip on a stroller. A barista narrowing his eyes behind a foggy cafe window. "Is he trying to take her?" someone whispered across the street. Marcus heard that. He always did. The tone before the accusation. The pause before the judgment. It clung to him like second skin. He put his phone down, screen unlocked, and turned slightly so both hands were still in plain sight. "What's your name?" he asked the girl. "Lily." "All right, Lily. Let's sit right here on this bench, okay? Somewhere visible. I'll help you find your mom." They sat. Her small frame shivered beside him. But already a crowd had begun to form. Not big, just clustered. Focused. Hungry for something they didn't understand. Then came the voice. "Is everything okay here?" Marcus looked up. A white woman in her 50s, shopping bags digging into her arm, was glaring at him like he'd been caught red-handed. She wasn't asking him. She was asking the street, giving them permission to be suspicious. "She's helping me," Lily said, confused. But the woman didn't hear that part. Or didn't want to. "Well, I already called the police," she said flatly, stepping back. "Just in case." And with that, the powder keg was lit. Marcus's jaw tightened. He turned to Lily, soft again. "Don't worry. Just stay near me, okay? We'll be fine." But the looks were multiplying. Phones were out. Cameras recording. The air grew tight. "Yeah, he's wearing jeans, a hoodie. Tall. Looks like she's scared," a man muttered into his phone. Lily wasn't scared. Not of Marcus. But those words were already carving a new narrative into the air, one that had nothing to do with the truth. Then sirens. The sirens pierced through the early evening hum like a blade, cutting conversation and breath in the same motion. Lily shrank on the bench, clutching her rabbit to her chest. Marcus felt it too, that creeping cold, not of fear exactly but of inevitability. He stood slowly, carefully. Hands still visible, phone still in plain view. He turned slightly to shield Lily from the noise, from the eyes now burning into his back like coals. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Don't move. Stay seated. Whatever happens, just keep telling the truth. Understand?" Lily looked up, tears fresh in her eyes. "Are you gonna be okay?" "I will," Marcus lied. "Just stay calm." The cruiser screeched to a halt half on the curb, lights flashing, wheels smoking. The doors flew open before the car even stopped. 2 white officers exploded out, guns already drawn. "Hands where we can see them," one barked, weapon pointed squarely at Marcus's chest. Marcus's blood ran ice cold. His hands were already up. He didn't move. Didn't blink. She was lost, he said slowly, clearly. I was trying to help. On the ground. Now, the other officer shouted. Lily screamed. The next seconds blurred into brutality. Marcus didn't resist. He didn't even move. But the officers rushed him like a threat, one grabbing his arm, the other slamming his chest into the concrete. His cheek scraped the sidewalk. He heard something, maybe his phone, skitter across the pavement. Steel bit into his wrists. Lily's cries tore through the chaos. No, stop. He didn't do anything. He was helping me. Step back, miss, one officer snapped, trying to guide her away, but even he looked shaken by her panic. Someone in the crowd yelled, got it all on video. Phones were everywhere now. Recording. Rewinding. Reposting. Still face down, Marcus rasped. I work right around the corner. I called for help. Ask her, ask the girl. But no one was listening. Not yet. They didn't even ask his name. As they pulled him up roughly and stuffed him into the back seat of the cruiser, Lily's voice was the last thing he heard through the closing door. He helped me. He helped me. The car drove away, sirens off now. The lights of the city blurred behind the tinted window. Marcus leaned his head back against the hard plastic divider, wrists aching, heart thudding. His only thought. If she wasn't the mayor's daughter? The precinct was cold, not physically but spiritually. Everything felt gray. The chairs. The walls. The eyes that wouldn't meet his. No one said much as Marcus sat in processing, dirt on his hoodie, red marks wrapping his wrists like bracelets of shame. Some officers moved stiffly, like they knew something was wrong but didn't know how to fix it. Others just ignored him entirely. He was used to that too. Then came the storm. A door slammed open down the corridor. Where is she? Where's my daughter? The voice boomed, sharp, commanding, unmistakable. Heels clicked in rapid succession across tile. A tall woman in a crisp navy suit tore through the hallway like a missile. Blonde hair pulled back tight, her face flushed from panic and fury. Diane Whitmore, mayor of the city, and mother to the girl on the sidewalk. She was flanked by aides and a social worker leading Lily behind her. Marcus didn't move. Didn't speak. He sat, watching it unfold like a silent film. Lily. Diane gasped, dropping to her knees as her daughter ran into her arms. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Lily clung to her, sobbing. No, not me, they hurt him. Mommy, they threw him down. He didn't do anything. Diane froze. Who hurt you? She asked, alarmed. Not me. Him. The man who helped me. The room stilled. Conversations halted. Movement slowed. Diane pulled back, gently holding her daughter's face. The man? He helped you. Lily nodded hard. He saw me crying. He stopped. He asked what was wrong. He was gonna call the police. Everyone else walked by. But he helped me, Mommy. Why did they hurt him? That silence again, like the air had been knocked out of the building. Diane stood, face tightening into something more dangerous than rage, controlled fury. She turned, eyes scanning the room until they landed on Marcus. He stood instinctively, posture still calm, even with humiliation clinging to his shoulders. Are you? She began, voice steadier now. Marcus James? He gave a faint nod. Yes, ma'am. Their eyes locked. Her gaze moved over the bruise forming on his temple, the dirt on his hoodie, the bloodless lines circling his wrists. My daughter tells me you helped her, she said. Marcus replied simply, I saw her crying. I pulled over. I asked if she was okay. I was calling for help when the officers showed up. She's telling the same story, Diane said quietly, looking down at Lily. Exactly the same. The girl nodded quickly, her stuffed rabbit now damp from her tears. Diane turned sharply to the nearest officer. Why wasn't I told that he was trying to help her? Mayor Whitmore, the officer began nervously, we responded to a report of a potential abduction in progress. Civilian witnesses confirmed the child looked distressed. She was distressed. Diane cut in, her voice like a blade. Because she was lost. And this man, this stranger, was the only person who actually stopped to help. The officer shrank slightly. Another whispered into the mayor's ear. She turned back to Marcus, eyes wide. Someone recorded the whole thing, she said. From the second you stepped out of your car. Marcus's shoulders dropped ever so slightly. Good, he said. Then maybe people will believe me this time. Lily looked up at her mother. Can he go home now? Diane knelt down and whispered, Yes, baby. He can. She stood again, her eyes now resolute. "We'll get you released right away," she promised Marcus. "And I am so sorry." Marcus nodded. She told the truth. That matters. And for the first time since the sirens, he felt the tiniest shift, not vindication, not yet, but maybe the beginning of something better. By the time Marcus stepped out of the precinct, night had taken over the city. The sky was deep indigo, scattered with stars barely visible through the haze of city lights. He took a slow breath, the kind you hold for a second longer just to prove to yourself you're free. Not that it felt like it. His wrists still stung. His jaw ached. His hoodie was stained, and though the handcuffs were gone, their imprint remained. The mayor herself had walked him through the process, bypassing red tape with clipped commands and furious stares. He hadn't asked for special treatment. He hadn't wanted it. But as he exited the building, escorted not by officers but by an apologetic aide and the sharp echo of news cameras gathering outside, he realized something else had already begun. He was no longer invisible. Outside, the crowd had grown. Not a mob. Not yet. Reporters, activists, city officials, and a growing cluster of people who'd seen the video, or heard about it. People holding signs that hadn't even existed 2 hours ago. "Helping while black is not a crime. We saw the video. Justice for Marcus James." He wasn't ready. He ducked his head and kept walking, ignoring the questions thrown at him from the sidelines. "Do you plan to sue? What's your message to the police? How does it feel being seen as a hero?" Hero. That word almost made him laugh. He hadn't done anything heroic. He'd done what any human being should have done. But somehow, for people who looked like him, even being decent could come with handcuffs. At the corner, he found quiet. He sat on a bench under a street lamp and finally pulled out the spare phone he'd borrowed from the mayor's office staff. His own phone was still in police custody. 1 missed call from his sister. 2 from his boss. 23 messages from friends. But he ignored them all. Except one. Milo. His son had sent a voice message. "Dad, are you okay? Andy said you helped someone and the police were mean. But I told her you're the nicest person ever. I love you. I'll wait up." Marcus listened to it twice before responding with a short video. "Hey bud. I'm okay. Just tired. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Don't stay up too late. Love you." He hit send and for a moment just sat there, eyes closed. The weight of what happened began to sink deeper. Not just the pain but the implications. It could have gone so much worse. If no one had filmed it. If Lily hadn't spoken up. If her last name hadn't been Whitmore. And still it wasn't over. The video dropped online at 10:34 p.m. A bystander's grainy phone footage, uploaded to a small local account, titled plainly, "He was just helping her." But within 30 minutes it was everywhere. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. National news picked it up by midnight. The video opened with Marcus kneeling gently near the crying girl. His hands visible. His phone already out. His voice soft and measured. The child nodded as he asked about her mom. Then it showed the bystanders. Their whispering. Their phones. The stares. The moment the woman shouted across the sidewalk, "Is everything okay here?" The footage captured the crescendo of panic, the unearned suspicion boiling into frenzy. Then the sirens. Then the slam. Marcus being thrown to the concrete. His phone skidding. Lily's scream piercing the air. He didn't do anything. It was hard to watch. And impossible to deny. In less than an hour, hashtags trended. Hashtag justice for Marcus. Hashtag helping while black. Hashtag Mayor Whitmore's daughter. Hashtag they didn't even ask his name. By morning it wasn't just a viral moment. It was a movement. Marcus hadn't planned on going back to work the next day. But he needed normal. Or at least the illusion of it. So he wore his cleanest polo, straightened his shoulders, and walked into the office like nothing happened. The receptionist froze when she saw him. So did his supervisor. Not out of guilt, just recognition. They'd all seen the video. Everyone had. "Hey," someone mumbled awkwardly from a cubicle. Marcus nodded. As he sat down at his desk, silence settled again. Not malicious but weighted. As though his presence now carried new meaning. As though everyone realized that the man who sat at desk 4B, who fixed their routers and updated their passwords, wasn't just a tech guy anymore. He was a symbol. He didn't want to be. He just wanted to help a little girl find her mom. But reality had rewritten him. His manager stopped by mid-morning. Offered him paid leave if you need it, and "We're here for you." Marcus thanked him, declined, and got back to work. But he couldn't ignore the emails flooding in. One from the ACLU. One from a local civil rights attorney. 3 from talk show producers. 1, surprisingly, from Mayor Diane Whitmore herself. Subject, if you're open to it. Marcus, I hope you're resting. I want to extend a formal invitation to speak at next week's City Policy Summit. It's not about politics. It's about change. I understand if you're hesitant, but I believe your voice could help shift something real. Let me know. He stared at the message for a long time. He didn't consider himself a speaker or a leader. But then he thought of Lily and of Milo and the millions of people who hadn't been lucky enough to have a crowd watching when the cops arrived. Marcus clicked reply. Yes, I'll be there. The day of the summit arrived like a slow wave crashing toward the city. City Hall had never felt so charged. Dozens of news vans lined the surrounding blocks, reporters scrambling in every direction. Protest signs leaned against trees and railings, many hand-painted overnight. Some read, "Believe what you see," others bore Marcus's face beneath the caption, "He helped her." Inside, the rotunda buzzed with nervous energy. Officials, activists, clergy, students, people from every corner of the community had packed in to witness what no one expected. A quiet IT worker turned national voice overnight. Marcus stood in a side room just off the main floor, alone with his thoughts. He wore the same charcoal gray shirt he'd worn to his sister's wedding, paired with polished slacks and clean shoes. He hadn't opted for a suit. That wasn't him. But he did skip the hoodie. Not because he was ashamed, he wasn't, but because he knew what people saw before they listened. And today he needed them to listen. Mayor Diane Whitmore entered moments before the program began. She looked different, more grounded, stripped of her usual political veneer. She held a file in one hand, her phone in the other, but when she looked up at Marcus, her eyes were soft. "I won't pretend I know what you've been through," she said. "But I want you to know, whatever you say today will back you. You have the floor. No filters." Marcus gave a quiet nod. "I'm not here to be angry. I just want the truth to mean something." Diane handed him a small card. "You don't need notes," she said. "But just in case. My daughter's words, Lily asked me to give them to you." He looked down. In small, loopy handwriting it read, "Thank you for not leaving me alone. You were the only one who stopped. I'll never forget you." His chest tightened. He folded the card and tucked it into his pocket. When Marcus stepped up to the podium, the room fell silent. No teleprompters. No graphics. Just a mic, a man, and a truth the whole city now carried. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't speak like a politician. He just spoke like a man who knew what it was like to be feared before being known. "I've been asked a lot this week about what I want. About what justice would look like," he began, his voice steady, but low enough to pull the audience forward in their seats. "Some people think I should sue. Others think I should forgive and move on. Some call me a hero. Some say I was lucky." Pause. "But I'm not here for any of that." He scanned the crowd. Faces of all colors. Many of them familiar. Some not. "I'm here because I did something simple. I saw a child crying on the sidewalk. I pulled over to help. That's all. But that simple act almost got me killed." What? "Because of what I looked like. Because some people saw me and made up a story faster than they were willing to listen." The murmur of truth rolled through the room. "My father taught me to help others. But he also taught me to be careful. To keep my hands visible. To never run. Never raise my voice. Because someone might see the wrong thing, or just enough to twist it." He let the silence do the work for a beat before continuing. "That's the part that keeps me up at night. Not the cuffs. Not the sidewalk. Not the bruises. But this, what if no one had filmed it? What if she wasn't the mayor's daughter? What if the only version of that day was the one someone else invented for me?" Gasps and nods echoed from the crowd. He finished simply. "I don't want revenge. I don't want praise. I want my son to grow up in a world where helping someone doesn't get him arrested. Where being kind while black isn't treated like a crime. Where the truth gets a chance to be heard before the sirens drown it out." Applause swelled, not dramatic or political but raw, real. People didn't stand because they were told to. They stood because something inside them shifted. Diane Whitmore rose too, hand resting on Lily's shoulder, who sat in the front row teary-eyed but proud. Marcus stepped away from the podium and returned to his seat quietly, not looking for cameras or validation. Just stillness. Just peace. Later that night, Marcus walked home alone. No security detail. No flashing lights. Just the soft rhythm of his shoes on the sidewalk, the occasional hum of a bus rolling by, and a deep exhale he didn't know he'd been holding. As he turned the corner onto his street, a familiar voice shouted, "Dad!" Milo ran toward him, comic book in hand, backpack swinging wildly. "You were on TV again. You looked serious." Marcus laughed and scooped him into a hug. "It was a serious day, buddy." "Did they say sorry?" Milo asked, eyes wide. Marcus paused. "Some of them did. Some still don't know why they should." Milo considered this. "Did you tell them you weren't bad?" "I told them the truth. That's all I can do." They stood there like that for a moment, father and son, framed by a street lamp's glow, the noise of the city soft in the distance. And for the first time in days, Marcus felt something almost like peace. Not because the world was fixed, but because he was still standing. The following days moved in slow motion. Marcus returned to work again, though the office still felt like a museum, people circling him with wide eyes and whispered awe. Emails piled up. Some from strangers. Some from neighbors he'd never spoken to before. "You didn't deserve that. I'm so sorry for what happened. You've changed the way I see things. But others were different. Stay in your lane. Maybe don't approach white kids next time. You people always make it about race." He deleted those without reading past the first sentence. He wasn't shocked, just tired. The city buzzed with a new awareness. Local talk shows dissected the video frame by frame. Opinion pieces spilled onto every platform. Some argued Marcus's story was a one-off tragedy. Others called it evidence of deeper rot. But Marcus stayed quiet. He didn't join the debate. He had already said what needed to be said. What surprised him most was the letter. A handwritten one. Delivered in a plain white envelope, no return address. It was waiting at his desk Monday morning, slipped under his keyboard. He hesitated before opening it. "Mr. James, I was one of the people standing outside that cafe. I didn't say anything. I didn't stop the officers. I didn't record. I just watched. And I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't speak up. I think I was afraid. But after I saw the video, I realized silence is a kind of violence too. I hope you can forgive me for being a coward that day. I've learned something from you. I just wanted you to know." No name. No signature. Just a folded apology. Marcus sat still for several minutes, the letter trembling in his hand. Forgiveness wasn't a light switch. But honesty? That was something. Meanwhile, change was happening. Small, yes, but undeniable. Mayor Whitmore announced a task force on law enforcement conduct, beginning with new training protocols and community oversight. It wasn't enough for some. It was too much for others. But it was a start. One of the officers involved in Marcus's arrest was suspended. The other quietly resigned. Lily's statement, recorded and shared by the mayor's office, spread quickly. Her clear, tearful voice echoed across the internet. "He didn't touch me. He asked if I was okay. He was going to call for help. Everyone else walked by. But he didn't. I wish people had listened sooner." Her words became a rallying cry. Not just for protests but for something deeper. Reflection. At Milo's school, Marcus was invited to speak during Community Appreciation Week. He thought about declining. He wasn't sure what he'd even say to a group of 8-year-olds. But Milo begged. So he went. He wore jeans and a button-down. No cameras. No crowd. Just folding chairs and juice boxes and a handful of bright-eyed kids staring up at him. He told them the same thing he told the city. If you see someone hurting, don't walk away. One girl raised her hand and asked, "But what if people think you're bad even when you're not?" That question hit harder than any punch. Marcus paused, then knelt in front of her. "Then you still do the right thing. Because one day someone will see it. And someone will understand. And the world will be better because you didn't walk away." The room fell silent. Even the teacher wiped her eyes. That night, Marcus and Milo ate dinner together on their tiny balcony. They shared mac and cheese and apple slices, the city humming quietly beneath them. Milo asked, "Are you going to be on TV again?" "Maybe," Marcus said. "But I'm not trying to be famous." "Then what are you trying to be?" Marcus thought about it. "Safe," he finally said. "And honest. And seen." Milo blinked. "That's 3 things." Marcus smiled. "Exactly." They laughed. For the first time in what felt like weeks, they laughed without heaviness. Without fear. Just father and son. Free at least for the moment. But the world had more in store. One morning, about a week later, Marcus received another message. This one was from Diane Whitmore. Not a form letter. Not political. Just 4 sentences. "Marcus, I've been invited to speak at the National Mayor's Conference in D.C. next month. They want to discuss real reform, real change. I would like you to come with me. Not as a symbol, but as a voice. Yours." He stared at the screen. Milo looked up from the kitchen table, mouth full of cereal. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," Marcus said softly. "Something big just happened." He closed the email, exhaled, and reached for his coffee. It wasn't over. And that's what made it worth continuing. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood under the polished lights of the Washington Grand Ballroom, heart steady, mind clear. He was no longer just the man who helped the mayor's daughter. He wasn't just a viral video. He wasn't just a face on protest signs. He was a witness. A voice. And this time people had come to listen. The National Mayor's Conference had drawn leaders from across the country. City officials, law enforcement directors, policy reformers, and media personalities filled the ornate hall. The backdrop behind the main stage read, "Trust, Truth, and Transformation." Mayor Diane Whitmore took the stage first, her poise confident but sincere. "This is not about politics," she began. "It's about what happens when perception overrides truth. When help is mistaken for harm. When fear clouds our most basic humanity." She paused, then gestured to her left. "I'd like to introduce a man who changed my daughter's life, and who changed mine. Marcus James." Polite applause echoed. A few stood. A few didn't. But everyone watched as Marcus walked calmly to the podium, hands unclenched, posture upright. This time he didn't need to find his voice. It had already found him. "I'm not a politician," Marcus began, "and I didn't come here to perform. I came to tell the truth." He looked out across the crowd, faces of power, of influence, of consequence. 3 weeks ago, I pulled over to help a crying child. For that, I was thrown to the pavement, handcuffed and silenced. Not because I did anything wrong, but because some people didn't want to wait long enough to ask what was right. A murmur of discomfort spread, but no one interrupted. "I don't speak here today for pity. I speak for understanding. For my son who watched the footage and asked why they hurt me. For every person whose kindness has been met with suspicion instead of gratitude." He leaned forward slightly. "And for the people in this room who have the power to change that." His words were met not with applause this time, but with quiet. Deep, thoughtful, sobering quiet. The kind that cracks open walls that had long been bricked over. Later, after the conference ended, Marcus stepped outside alone for air. The DC evening was crisp, clear. A soft breeze rustled the cherry blossoms in the plaza across the street. He heard heels clicking behind him. "Marcus," Diane called gently. "There's someone here who wants to say hello." He turned. It was the police chief from his city, Chief Holbrook. A man he'd never spoken to. A man who hadn't said a word in the days following the incident. The chief approached, his shoulders stiff, face unreadable. I watched your speech," he said. "And the footage. Again. All of it." Marcus didn't say anything. "I want to apologize," Holbrook said. "Not for what I didn't do personally, but for what the badge under my command allowed to happen. You didn't deserve it. No one does." Marcus studied his face. "And what will change?" The chief exhaled. "That's the part one came to talk about. If you're willing, I want your help to rebuild the training process. The system. From the inside." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I don't want to be your token," he said. "I'm not asking you to be," Holbrook replied. "I'm asking you to be the voice that holds us accountable." There was a long pause. Marcus extended his hand. "Then let's start there." They shook hands, not for the cameras but for the future. That night, Marcus sat in his hotel room, looking out over the Capitol dome glowing softly in the distance. He held Lily's card in one hand, still folded neatly in his wallet, and Milo's drawing in the other, a stick figure with a cape labeled Dad. He didn't feel like a hero. But maybe that was the point. Heroes aren't the ones looking for attention. They're the ones who stop to help when no one else does. Even when it costs them everything. 3 months had passed since that day on the sidewalk. Since the moment the world saw Marcus James for something more than just a black man in a hoodie beside a crying white child. But for Marcus, the memory hadn't faded. Not the scrape of concrete on his cheek. Not the tight snap of the cuffs. Not the echo of Lily's voice screaming. He didn't do anything. Those moments didn't haunt him, they grounded him. Reminded him why he kept going. And change had slowly begun to grow from the cracks. The city rolled out a new civilian oversight board. Marcus had been named to it, reluctantly at first, but then with full purpose. The board had teeth, real authority to review body cam footage, suspend officers and shape community training programs. The police department invited him, publicly, to advise on their bias mitigation workshops. He didn't accept to feel vindicated. He accepted because he knew if he didn't sit at that table, Someone like him might never be heard. He still worked IT. Still fixed passwords and rebooted servers. But now people paused when he entered a room. Not because they saw a threat. Because they finally saw a man. He hadn't chased justice through anger. He'd walked toward it through truth. And the world noticed. On a quiet Saturday, Marcus took Milo to the park. It was warm, early summer. The kind of day where the sky felt too blue to be real. Families picnicked. Dogs chased frisbees. A food truck lined with eager customers blasted soft R&B through cheap speakers. Milo was busy trying to fly a neon green kite, running in wild zigzags through the field. Marcus sat on a bench, sipping iced tea, watching his son be exactly what every child should have the right to be. Free. Careless. Unburdened. A woman approached, hesitant. She looked familiar, maybe from a school function or a council meeting. She had a little girl beside her. "Mr. James?" she asked. He looked up. "Yes. I just wanted to say, thank you. You made my husband and I talk to our kids about things we never knew how to explain. About assumptions. About empathy. You changed how we think. And I'm sorry for what you went through." Marcus gave a humble nod. "I appreciate that." She smiled and gently nudged her daughter forward. The little girl held out a folded piece of paper. On it was a drawing of a stick figure helping another stick figure off the ground. The words underneath read, "Helping is never wrong." He took it, heart swelling. "Thank you." After they left, he stared at the drawing for a while. Helping is never wrong. No matter the cost. No matter the consequence. It had taken 30 minutes to break him on the sidewalk that day. But it only took one child's truth to put everything in motion. Later that night, back home, Marcus tucked Milo into bed. "Dad," Milo whispered, "when I grow up, I want to help people too." Marcus brushed his son's curls gently. "You already do," he said. "Every time you tell the truth. Every time you're kind when it's hard. That's how we help." Milo smiled sleepily. "You think the world's getting better?" Marcus looked out the window at the stars, quiet for a moment. "Maybe not all at once," he said. "But sometimes, a few people see something true. And they don't forget." He leaned in and kissed Milo's forehead. "And that's how it starts." In a world where suspicion often speaks louder than truth, Marcus James stood as a quiet force for justice. Not through anger but through unwavering integrity. His story reminds us that one act of courage, seen clearly, can shift the hearts of thousands. As Marcus said, helping someone shouldn't be a gamble with your life. So ask yourself, are we seeing each other clearly? Or just through fear? If this story moved you, share it. Speak about it. Let it echo. This is True Echo, where real stories meet real change. Subscribe for more powerful narratives. Drop a comment below. We want to hear your voice. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a moment that matters.